Hello, you're listening to a Taco Spirit Anime Cast. My name is Andrew, and I'm joined here with Chris.
Yo.
And today's episode is our first impressions of the spring 2024 anime season. I don't know that we're going to do 60-plus shows. We're definitely not doing it a day. Typically, we like to do them over a course of... lately, it's been 3 weeks because there's so many dang shows to cover. But, yeah, we're going to go through all the shows of the season in sequence of them releasing mostly and give our thoughts on it, what the show's about, all that good stuff, like we usually do. But as per usual, greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel. Check this out. Give us a listen. Give us a like. All that kind of stuff. Greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks. All that stuff is at otakuspirit.com. But yeah, we should just jump right into it because I don't know how much time we have.
No, we don't have a lot
We're
of time.
kind of starting late. But yeah, let's just kick things off the spring season with a banger. Let's talk about Spice and Wolf. Merchant Meets the Wise Wolf. The 2024 edition. I'm so thankful they're not doing the stupid year thing like Urusei Yatsura did. Yes, Okami to Kyoshiro, Merchant Meets the Wise Wolf. This one is being done by Passione and based on a light novel, obviously. Adventure, drama, fantasy, romance. I think they pretty much got the same team. The music's being done by Kevin Pinkin now, though, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, this one, for those who don't know, I don't know why you would not know about Spice and Wolf. At this point, if you're an anime fan and you don't know about Spice and Wolf, something wrong with you. No, I still get a lot of people going, sell me on the show. And it's like, okay, yeah, let's get into it. it's like not something you could just go like, oh, well, it's got a lot of fan service. Okay, yeah, let's go for that. Or it's got a lot of this. Okay, let's go for that. No, it's an explanation. But yeah, for those that don't know what it's about, it's basically about Kraft Lawrence, and he's a traveling merchant, and he is currently traveling to this one village. He's been a traveling merchant for about 7 years, and at some point he's going to this one village that he does a lot of business with. He did some trade there for some wheat and furs and all that kind of stuff. And then as he's going to leave the village, he ends up with, in the back of his wagon, Holo, the Wise Wolf. Now, Holo herself, the Wise Wolf, is actually like a legend of that particular village. It was a, basically, the people would celebrate on a yearly basis. The time that he arrived there, they were actually doing that celebration, this festival. And the festival basically is to, cut down all the wheat, and then at some point, whoever gets the last wheat, they become Holo, and they have to flee. And if people capture them, they have to stick them into the warehouse or the barn. But yeah, she's basically a harvest goddess. So she would take care of the harvest, let them have bountiful harvest. They also say that she's finicky because yes, some years they won't have bountiful harvest. She explains it later on because this is actually that Wise Wolf, that she has to sort of keep the harvest down and not bountiful some years because otherwise, if it's always bountiful, eventually the soil will be depleted.
Yeah.
So she was kind of, because she made a promise to somebody a long time ago that used to live in that village before they passed away, she was keeping that cycle going. But now, as the church has arrived and they're not liking people worshiping false deities and whatnot, and then you also have this this duke arrived to that village particularly, or at least that domain, and that duke was a farmer and brought them different methods to keeping their harvest going every single year. They've fallen out of caring about Holo, the Wise Wolf. So she's traveling with Lawrence because she wants to go back home, and he's traveling and because he's doing his trade, and he has these dreams of hopefully opening his own shop, because seemingly every traveling merchant wishes one day they'll open up a shop. That way they can settle down, have friends, have a wife, have a family. Being a traveling merchant, you don't get to do that. So he's always kind of been alone, traveling around. Now he's got her just jump into his wagon. He realizes really quickly that he likes the banter between the two of them. I mean, he's always alone, so now he's got a companion. Over time, what it sort of turns into is them going to different locations, doing different trades, and the two of them kind of working together in order to figure out what the best deal they can get. Like, early example, he's got the furs in his wagon, so he goes to the trade company in order to sell it. Well, on their way to the trade company, Holo wants apples, and so she buys a whole bunch of apples and eats them all. But then when they get there and Lawrence makes the deal, Holo's like, hold on a second, is that a good deal? He's like, it's a pretty good deal. Oh, well, man, this guy is really, you got to watch out for this guy. And he's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, you noticed it, right? Smell them, smell the furs. And then you can smell the apple, the scent from the apples. And she's like, yeah, they ate the finest apples in these forests, so they have really strong fur. Try to break it. Try to rip it apart. Yeah, that's a really good fur. It smells good too. It's going to be a much better pelt than anything else you can have. So it's them basically using their own knowledge. Lawrence has a lot of knowledge of society, the kingdoms, the currencies, and the trade of merchants, whereas Holo has her wisdom, her many years of, examining people and examining how people do trades as well in that particular village. But additionally, the fact that she has ears that can hear lies. Now, she specifies sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it's hard to figure out what part of what they're saying is a lie, or what's the intent for the lie. But the idea there is that the two of them, with their own skill set, are working together. Well, at the same time, you have the little chemistry between the two of them. She's old, even though she takes upon herself the figure of a teenager. She's old, but so she has that wisdom. And at the same time, he's 7 years in the trade, but at the same time, he's still not an old man. So there's that little chemistry between the two of them. Sure, she's always like looking at him as like a child. Like at some point, he's like, what do you think about that young man? Which one? Oh, I'm sorry. You both are young to me. You're both children to me. So yeah, your thoughts so far on the new adaptation of Spice and Wolf? Because we both watched the old one together. We did a review on it, so that's on the podcast if you guys want to go find that. Then I went back and I read 4 volumes, and you've read how much so far? Like 6?
I am technically one volume past where the original anime was. So I have
around 5 then.
Yeah, 5 or 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
I absolutely enjoy it. I think that they took a little bit more time on a couple of tidbits that probably needed a little bit more expounding. In particular, like Andrew was talking about, they broke down the ritual a little bit better, I think. It's one of those things that you kind of want to go back and watch the original one while you're doing this, just to, put the two side by side.
There's one big difference right off the bat, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, that
Chloe's no longer there.
That too.
For those that don't know, the light novel, he meets a guy named Yari at that village. In the first anime adaptation, they turned Yari into Chloe, who was a girl. And then the new adaptation, they went back to actually being Yari. So they got rid of the waifu.
It'll be interesting to see how they kind of resolve that later. Because I don't remember it almost plays off Chloe as having jealousy issues when she does what she does, and Yari didn't really have that.
But the difference is that here they had that whole extra scene. It's not even in the light novel either. They had that whole extra scene where he meets up with Yari in the first episode. So I guess since they both had that, they wanted to put a lot of emphasis on the idea that he does not like, these false gods. He never cared for Holo. At the same time, all these other things that he's kind of yammering on about. He's obviously got a lot of connections, so.
Yeah, and I think that plays a little bit better into what decision he will make later on, whatever that may be. For those who know, they know. It'll be, because like I said, Chloe, they almost played it off as almost a jealousy type thing. Yeah, she didn't like the gods and all that stuff, but it really almost felt more like that. So it'll be interesting.
Hey, who knows?
Yeah.
Yari can like him.
Yari might actually be jealous.
Yari might be Yaoi. Not Yuri Yaoi. Yari.
But no, I like the way it's playing out so far. Like I said, when we were talking about the first impressions, I think Holo looks absolutely fantastic.
This is our first impressions.
Yeah.
I'm talking about preview. Or my video. Okay.
The preview. So yeah, I think it's doing fantastic. As far as selling somebody on it, it's that's a difficult one. I don't know that it's we had the best I can say, and I don't want to overhype it, because I think that this is a story that can get overhyped very easily. And that's a difficulty in
but I think that's always been present, because it's right now, it's always been, even before we had this new anime come out, it's been a staple as being a classic.
It's one of the criterions. I mean, you almost have to watch it. But at the same time, it's one of those that you would really want to be careful as to the hype level, because I could see somebody going into this expecting this amazing story and walking away going, well, that was way overhyped. It's not. There's a reason why it's such a staple, and I think that there's something in there for everybody. It's a simple story as far as what it's trying to convey. Like I said when we were talking about the preview, it's there's something special about their interactions, that chase and teaching basically a merchant that there is more value in something that is not necessarily just money. So take that for what it is. I think it's a fantastic story. I think they're doing a great, so far, they're doing a great job at adapting it.
Yeah, I think my whole thing with the whole suggesting is it takes us a certain type of person. I mean, this is definitely one of those shows where somebody's like, this part isn't working for me. Like, okay, then don't worry about it, because the best way, and I mentioned this with my episode 3 impressions for this new adaptation. When I watched the 3rd episode, I'm like, yeah, I'm reminded why I dropped it. Because for those who don't know, I watched the original series, got to, like, I don't know if I got the 3rd or 4th episode, somewhere around there. But I seem to vaguely remember that the 3rd episode was that point in which I went, what is this show? I just wasn't feeling it. And I dropped it. And it wasn't until me and Chris, I don't know why we did. I think it was because we were doing the light novel or something, or maybe the anniversary release, something. For some reason, me and Chris watched it. And it might have been one of our choices for just us to watch something together. And we watched it with Chris, and suddenly it worked. Suddenly everything worked. I suddenly loved it. And I think the 3rd episode is if you can watch the 3rd episode and go, I still like this show, keep watching it. But if you watch that 3rd episode and you go, this episode sucks, don't watch it. Because I think the 3rd episode is where you start to get that point in which it gets really, really into currencies and trade. At the same time, there's still chemistry. Because what I think this show is, what Spice and Wolf is literally the title. It's Spice and Wolf. It is the trade, and it's the chemistry. If you like the chemistry but don't like the trade, you're probably not going to like you might be able to trug through it. But if you don't like that trade aspect, which is really clever, I think once you get into it, it's really fun to kind of think about. Like the whole thing with the pelts. One of the great things that they mention after the pelts incident is they sell it, and they go to the bar. And then at that point, Kraft's like, I would never have thought about that. I can't believe that those furs were so well taken care of, and they're good. I just bought them. I didn't actually look at them in that much. And she's like, oh, well, yeah, that's fine. And he's like, but yeah, the apples? How do you know that? It was the apples that I put in there. Wait, you lied to him? And she's like, yeah. Like, the whole thing there was that she points out to him, if that guy gets upset, or it wasn't Lawrence that points that out, if that guy gets upset, then that's for a merchant to be swindled like that is a good thing. For one, they'll know in the future. They've learned something. You taught them something. And that's the sign of a good merchant when they get swindled like that and they think, I learned something. Thank you. And they even get into that later on. He literally makes a comment at Holo. Like, this guy realized you taught me something, and that's a good thing because he got taught that lesson with a wagon full of furs. What happens if he got taught that lesson when it's 50 wagons full of fur?
Yeah.
He learned it quick, and he had to, pay a little bit extra than normal. It's that kind of stuff that I really am fascinated by. While at the same time, like I said, the chemistry. The chemistry in this series has always been fantastic, and it's already hitting me with this new adaptation. I love every scene that Holo and Lawrence is in. And the 4th episode got me emotional. The 4th episode really got me. We had 2 shows this week that had emotional outbursts. We had, of course, Mushoku Tensei had that moment with Nahoshi. And then this episode, with the 4th episode of Spice and Wolf, we had Holo finally verbalizing the fact that she is lonely. You get a sense of that early on. It's like this feeling that she got left behind. She got forgotten, basically. And that's why she wanted to leave the village. They no longer care about me. They've moved on. And it's always a sensation of her this idea of her going through these different locations with Lawrence, and she's constantly being reminded that the world moved on without her. The church is now present. She's realizing how big the church has got, even though it seems like it's indicating that the church is declining. She's learning about the world, but at the same time realizing that she's no longer wanted. But now she's with Lawrence. And then Lawrence, like I said early on, the indication is he's a traveling merchant. He's always alone. Now, unfortunately, again, similar to the last adaptation, similar to this adaptation, they don't really convey that very well early on with Kraft.
Yeah.
But it's heavy in the light novel. Lawrence is lonely. There's this joke in the light novel in the first few pages about the idea that a traveling merchant, there's a tale that a traveling merchant will travel for so long their horse becomes human. And so when they go to buy a horse to become a traveling merchant, sometimes or at least for Lawrence, the merchant selling the horse was suggesting he get a mare. Because eventually one day it's going to become a female or it's going to become a human. So they're lonely and he's lonely. So now he's got a companion. And that 4th episode was like seeing Hullo break down and him relate to her because it's like, yeah, I'm always alone too. I have that feeling of waking up, silence, except for the horse. The horse might be chewing on grass, but you're alone. And they're doing that very well. One thing I love so far about this adaptation, and it was the same with the last adaptation, but it's one of those things where sometimes you have that fear of them changing things, is they're not holding back, at least Passione is not holding back on essentially just how kind of open Hullo is. Hullo doesn't really care about what people see. I mean, she does close up to go into the town, but that's because she doesn't want to get attention from the town. But for the most part, she's bearing all. And I do like the fact that Passione is not hiding from that stuff, especially when you can see that there's certain other shows that are kind of being very cover up about that kind of stuff in their new adaptations. They're doing really well here. And yes, I really do like the style of it. Again, I've mentioned before, it's different than the last adaptation, but it does match the light novel more. And both I like. I don't have a problem with either one of them, but I do like the new style they have for this one. Yes, some CGI here and there, but I was afraid from the PV, I was like, holy crap, there's going to be so much CGI, and it really has not bothered me. Even with the wagon, it hasn't really stood out as much as I thought it would. I think because when we're looking at PVs, I'm just looking for that. Where I'm watching this show, they're doing well enough to kind of ease you into it. Every now and then have it there, but it's not sticking out. It all blends in well. Plus, I also think because of the bit rates I'm starting to believe that because of the bit rates on PVs on YouTube, I think it makes it stand out more. Because there's some other shows where I'm like, oh, that's CGI, and then I watch the show and I'm like, it's not that bad. So I think bit rates make CGI look worse. But yeah, I'm loving it so far. They're nailing the music. Obviously, Kevin Penkin, the characters and their exchanges is still so much fun. I love how like snarky and prideful and mischievous Hullo is. It's always been that way, and it's here again. And I love Kraft, Lawrence. This is kind of what I was kind of going to mention with Unnamed Memory. I love that this season we have there might be another one. There's at least 2 shows right now where we have like mature dudes, like dudes that aren't afraid of females. It's so refreshing. And Lawrence is like not afraid. He's embarrassed at times. I mean, he's shocked when he comes in the room and she's just standing there bearing all. But he's not like running away from her and going, whoa, 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 whoa. He's an adult. He knows what's in front of him. Yes, he's not like going after her all the time, but it's one of those things where it's there. He acknowledges it, and then he moves on. It's like it never becomes like a constant thing where he's constantly panicking and hide himself. He gets over it really quickly. I don't remember if there was any more of the scenes later on where he's flustering or whatever, but he's gotten comfortable with her. And I like that. It's so refreshing to have a show. And yes, hugging her. Like when she's broken and he actually hugs her, it's like, oh my gosh, there's physical contact. something out of Japan that they're not like, the girl's like crying her eyes out and the guy's going, oh, okay. And then he puts his hand down on his sides like he doesn't want to touch her and she's just broken over there. It's like, hug the girl. Thank you. Thank you. It's good stuff. So I like their chemistry. They're so fantastic together. And again, based on how much I loved the first anime adaptation, how much I love the light novels, I'm really looking forward to this. And continuing my question mark is, will we get a full adaptation? I hope so. I think the big sign is going to be if they skip that volume again. If they skip that volume again, I'm going to be like, dang it. Because they do have 2 cores already. They're already assigned for 2 cores. So we at least know that they're going to, unless they add that chapter, unless they don't skip that chapter, they're going to adapt the same amount. Or if they skip that chapter again, they're going to adapt the same. They're going to adapt the same amount, and no matter what. Anyway, so the question is if it goes past that. That's my big question mark. I really do hope so. If they're doing a readaptation, there's got to be a reason they're doing it. Unless they're just trying to bump up hype again so they can sell more figurines. There's I think $1,700 figure of Holo out there now.
Oh, really?
It's a kimono, 1/4 scale, but $1,700. It's like, whoa. I mean, I never knew there to be a holo tax. I know they have a lot of figures, and that in itself can be, for a fan, a tax, because you're regularly having to pay into the holo tax by buying all the figures they make of it. But it's like, holy crap,
that figure better be dang good looking.
And yeah, to be honest, a 1/4 scale is big. I mean, the Rem up here is a 1/4, and she's standing, so she would be hitting her head. Well, no, it's Holo, so she's a little bit. It's about the same probably as Rem. At least it would probably be one of these D-Tolf shelves because she's standing. But woof, that's still a price tag. And then you have shipping on top of that, and if it's a 1/4 scale, it's going to probably be maybe 100, 150 for that as well. So it's woof, ouch. Anyways, yeah, that's my thoughts on it so far. I'm really loving it. The new adaptation's been really fantastic. I'm covering it weekly as I can. It's difficult too because I do my Mashiko Monday and everything with it, so it's been hard to get it in there, but it's working out though. So yeah, next, let's get to a weird show. Was it Train or was it? Yeah, it is Train. Okay, Train to the End of the World. I keep getting mixed up if it's Doomsday or if it's Train to Another World. I think the translation that people had was Doomsday Train or something like that, and then Crunchyroll went with Train to the End of the World. But yeah, Shumatsu Train Doko e Iku, and this one is running on Crunchyroll for 12 episodes, being done by MT Square. It's an original, and the script work and series composition by Michiko Yokote, which is really cool. I really do hope that this works out for her because she's been around the industry for a long time. So I think every single preview we have at least one show, maybe 3 that she's doing. So she's a hard worker. But yeah, this one follows. It starts out with this girl named Yoka, and she is arriving in Ikebukuro. And then at some point when she's getting off the train, she goes past the toll. Suddenly everybody starts celebrating. She is it was on like 77,777, or maybe it's 707. It's a 7 number. That visitor. And so immediately this like statue like lands on her, and it's a drone. It picks her up and it takes her to the top of this building where they have this big meetup with everybody celebrating the launch of 7G network. That's right. We're just gonna skip all the other stuff. We're gonna go straight to 7G. We have 5G, so I don't think there's 6G, right?
No, we're on 4G. 5G is the one that they're trying to implement.
So yeah, we're skipping.
We're skipping 6G, and they're going right straight to 7.
This is gonna be like blazing fast. Everybody have access. And yeah, they want her as the 7777777 to launch it. So they have this little button comes out, and they tell her to press it. And so she presses it, and then the world starts getting really weird. Like reality distorts, and everything starts to shift. And then she presses the button again, it stops. Then she presses the button again, it starts distorting, and then it all messes up. And yeah, what kind of follows this is the after effects of what they call this 7G incident, which is that reality itself has been altered. We jump over to Agano, where this one village, the effects that it had on this village, Agano, is that everybody in the village, if they're older than, what was it, 21 and a half, 21 and 6 months or something like that.
It was
it's like 19. A very specific number. I actually looked it up. If you take the days of the year, it comes pretty close to 7777.
Is that what it is?
It's not. There might be a variable there, but it's pretty close to that number. So I'm thinking that's probably what they're going for. But anyways, this particular year, if you're older than that, you become an animal. And then if you're younger than that, you're still retaining yourself. So there's actual girls in this one town. But once they reach that age, they're going to turn into an animal. So they kind of have some talking that's happening between the animal people. And they're talking about how their lives and they're adjusting to things. Some of them seem to like the changes that, society itself has pretty much gone away. They don't have to worry about insurance or anything like that anymore. There's, a bear guy, and he's dealing with the fact that he wants to eat meat, and so he has difficulties with people around him and whatnot. So they're all adjusting their own way. And then you have the girls that are still in the village themselves, which is Shizuru, Nadesco, Akira, and Remy. And they're just kind of talking about waiting for this one caravan to arrive. There's actually a caravan that goes between the villages and brings goods. And yeah, just trying to deal with their daily lives. We do find out that Shizuru herself, her childhood friend, Yoka, which was the girl from the very beginning that pressed the button, she's been looking for her this entire time. And then at some point when this caravan comes by, it's got a newspaper article and it has Yoka in the image. And so she's like, oh, she's in Ikebukuro, so I got to go there. And at some point, this one guy, the only old person in the village that's not an animal, which is Zenjiro, eventually he's going to turn into an animal. He's just he returned back home around the same time as the incident. And all he does all day is he's hunched over, walking around doing choo-choo noises. And at some point, Shizuru finds his hat, his train conductor hat, and sticks it on his head. And then suddenly he turns into like a hot young guy and starts rambling about the fact that he warned them not to do the launch. He told them it was dangerous, but they did it anyways. And starts to teach Shizuru how to use the train that's in the town before he changes back into an old man and saying choo-choo bunch. But yes, at that point, Shizuru decides she's going to take the train to Ikebukuro. The girls join her, and they start traveling. Over time, they're traveling. You see that outside of each of these villages, the distortion sort of extended the distance between each of the villages. And this one guy claims that they run into that anything that's not on the Ikebukuro to Agano train line is gone. So this is the only existence that's currently that he's seeing is just anything that's on that train line. So the girls are traveling along it, running into different villages. They come to a village where everybody has mushrooms on their heads. Early on in the episodes, they mentioned there's some of the towns, everybody turned into trees. So it seems to imply that every town, people are affected in a different way because of the incident. So that's the story so far. What's your thoughts? How'd you like the Shroom Town?
The what?
Yeah. How'd you like the Shroom Town?
Yeah.
Accept it. Accept the shrooms, Chris.
Right.
Have 2 fun years.
The way I feel about this is one of those Wandering Witch, Kino's Journey type shows where it's
like Girls Last Tour.
Girls Last
with,
Tour.
Somebody said something else that was a perfect fit for it. Sorry, go ahead.
But it seems like one of those you go on a journey. Every town has its own weird thing, and you just basically explore that weird thing for that episode or two. And I kind of want to like it, but it's just not hitting those notes for me right yet. And I'm not going to discount the show immediately because of that. It's just that the 2 or 3 places that they've been so far just hasn't quite gotten there for me. But I can see the potential because I do generally like the journey-ish type shows where they go from place to place and you just kind of explore weird things. And so that's what I'm kind of hoping for with this. And I'm going to be keeping up with it because I'm very interested to see what they plan on doing with it.
I think the best way that I had to describe it was this show is what happens when you have a boardroom meeting to make a new anime and somebody sticks a box of mushrooms in the middle and they eat it and they go crazy and you put markers in there too so they can mark stuff on the walls. And then after they're done and passed out, you bring somebody else in to basically take whatever was written on the walls and stick it into a script. It's so bizarre like that. But and it's so funny that I said that, and then the next episode, it's literally the mushroom people. So I'm like, oh, there's your mushroom board meeting. I don't know, maybe when I watched the 3rd episode, maybe that didn't plan in my head or something like that, or was it the 2nd episode? It was the 2nd episode, because 3rd episode is mushroom episode. Yeah,
well, they had met the guy.
They met the lady with the mushroom, so maybe...
Well, no. They hadn't got to the lady. Well, maybe the lady was there. At
the very end of the 2nd episode,
the guy was already talking about the mushroom... the huge mushroom or something like that.
So. Yeah, he mentioned a huge mushroom. Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was like tied into that whole thing or not. So it's weird. They talk about a lot of weird things. But no, it was so great because when when I was coming in the show, I was expecting like Girls Last Tour mixed with like some kind of cute girls doing cute thing, girls on Panzers type of thing, you know, cute girls on a train. And there was a side of me that thought the PVs, and this is what's so great about this being originals, we have no idea. I love that we have no idea how dark or how goofy this show's gonna get. Then I come in the show and I open it up, and it literally has this girl get taken off by a drone, and then she pushes a button and everybody goes psychedelic. I'm like, holy crap, what is this show? Because I thought that the secret of what caused it was going to be a mystery. But no, they're pretty clear on what happens. Now, why it happens, I guess that's going to be the further question, because Zenjiro, the guy that was involved with it, seemingly,
they kind of implied that they were going to be shooting 7G waves directly into people's brains. So
yeah, they were. Plus the idea that there's like this hinting that, or Zenjiro was talking about the idea of them trying to take over Ikebukuro or something like that. They're just trying to take over society or something like that. But yeah, it was super weird, super weird. And then it goes into animal people, and Bear tries to eat the poor Nadeshiko's thighs because he's hungry, and there's these thick thighs in front of him. It just gets like super weird. And then it's talking about how what's so great, I was going to say earlier, is that despite the whole mushroom joke that I made and the whole idea of how like crazy this show is, it still feels grounded. It still feels consistent. It still feels like it doesn't get too much and too wild, that you're still able to sort of still follow the characters as if they're just a bunch of girls trying to travel to Ikebukuro. They're witnessing things, but you're still there with them. And I think that's partly to do with that they do a good job with the dialogue with the characters, where it does feel like there's way too much information because there's so much talking, but it's not really like, it doesn't feel like exposition dump. It just kind of feels like they're conversations. But at the same time, with the first 2 episodes, I felt like the dialogue was too much. They would at times just ramble, and I almost equated it to like a comedy routine. Where what's the name of it? I forget the name of the comedy routine is. It's a comedy routine in Japan where you have 2 people on a stage and they kind of just quip back and forth. They're just kind of biting back and forth with little jabs. And it felt like that because they would like go, oh, well, do you have any food? Yeah, there's some in my bag. And they would take out the bag, and then suddenly they have like a little joke routine between these 2 characters. It seems like based on the 3rd episode, and I'm really glad that I watched the 3rd episode before we got on here, it feels like that's gone away. The 3rd episode was a good sign that they're going to kind of more focus on the characters just kind of existing in the world and talking, rather than just talking for the sake of talking. It felt like at least the 2nd episode especially, it felt like they were talking for the sake of talking. And a lot of that was between Akira and Remy. And it might be because Akira was sort of the oddball in that episode. Maybe that's why they weren't constantly at each other's throats. But Akira and Remy, it's like, these 2 need to chill. Like, they were fighting too much to the point where it's like, this is not fun. I don't care to have them fight every 2 seconds. Yeah. It's not funny. It's not entertaining. It's just them fighting. And I'm like, do something else. And it plays into it because they're traveling for a long time. And it gives that sense as they're going through this like warped area that it's a long trip. And they're kind of getting bored and they're getting a little agitated. But I was like, okay, if this is the whole show, is them constantly bickering, I'm not going to enjoy it. But again, 3rd episode was a good sign of that. We'll see with the 4th episode if we can keep that up. But that's all for me to say that I'm really loving the show, because it's weird. It's still grounded. It still has a sense of reality while it's warped. And I'm enjoying the trip. I'm enjoying discovering the world and seeing what all's in there. While at the same time, it looks really good. Visually, the show looks really good. And I'm actually enjoying the character designs and the expressions of the characters. And the comedy here and there is really hitting. I love the first moment that she sticks that hat on Zenjiro's head, because it feels like this guy has been literally wanting to talk for years. Because the moment that he pops up, he starts rambling and ranting about how he wanted them to do this. They didn't listen to him. He's trying to do this. I'm like, this guy has been wanting to say something for a long time, hasn't he? It's like the poor old lady that nobody visits, and when you go to see her or whatever, suddenly she just tells you like everything that's happened in the last like a month. Like, I had this call, I seen this person outside, he was doing his lawn. Yeah, okay, I got you. You really badly was looking forward to talking. Slow down. So I can hear what you're saying. Other than that,
be interesting if they ever explain how he's able to still do the tapping after the train track is broken. But hey,
I get a kick out of those scenes. I'm sorry. That first time was great.
Pun,
It was like,
pun.
yeah, they're hearing the tinging on the train, and then they're like, oh, that's Morse code. What is it saying? This, and this. Oh, wow, that. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, choo. And he's over there going, it's like, oh, it wore off. There was a 5 minutes. He gets 5 minutes. Somehow I wasted it. Those little exchanges are fun. There's a lot of little funny moments that just kind of jump out of nowhere, and I do get a kick out of it. So if it can work on its chemistry a little bit and deliver on the overall story, I think this could be like hopefully a really fantastic original. Which I'm always rooting for originals, and that's mainly because there's so much mystery behind them. We don't have source material. People going, oh, the source material, this happens or whatever. Nobody knows. And I love that aspect. It's like when I always mention with the Yuki as a hero coming in that show, and it was completely unknown what the hell that show was going to do, and then it just completely surprised us. So I'm excited for it. Again, I hope it kind of pans out in the end, but we'll see. It could completely flop after this point. I don't know. There's somebody to make a good point that technically that guy that gave him the map, there's a lot of stops. So I'll be curious how much they. I'm wondering if all the stops is going to be like because I don't know how many actual towns are in between Agano and Ikebukuro. So I'm assuming they might skip over some of the towns, or it might be one of those things where they might see how well the show's doing, and then maybe
I'm telling you, it's going to go Kino's Journey.
Go to like a split core or something like that.
It's totally going to go Kino's Journey. You're going to stop in every one of those.
Everyone, no ending.
Yep.
Just don't even in the story. Anyways, that's my thoughts on it.
They're going to turn it into a long-running series.
Yeah. Split core.
No.
Multi-core.
No, it's going to go 1,000 episodes.
How can you do that?
Just to drive you
They would
crazy.
have to like move the train for like an inch and then get out and check out what's out there, and then they get back in the train and move it an inch. That's our next stop. Check out what's outside. It looks a little the same. No, we have one new blade of grass. Anyways. What's our next show? Banished Hero. Speaking of visually pleasing shows. Speaking of visuals. I don't know. Maybe Chris is less critical than I am. I was pretty critical about it. But yeah, the banished former hero lives as he pleases, or deki so konai to yobareta moto iyo wa jika kara suiho sareta node suki kata ni ikiru koto ni shita. Oh my gosh, these freaking names. You know it's based off a light novel, right? You know it's if it goes in my document, if it goes a second line, you know it's a light novel. And no, if it at least goes halfway across the page, it's gonna be a light novel. Anyways, this is being done by Studio Dean. Yeah.
That explains a lot.
And they're doing 3 shows this season. And the other show that I've watched of their offerings this season is not looking too good either. So Studio Dean, why not just stick with one show and see if you can handle that? Marvy Jack as well, apparently. Source is a light novel, actions, adventure, fantasy, romances. And this one opens up with a guy who was a hero in his previous life. He did a great job, but he was kind of like treated poorly because it goes in that whole thing where you're powerful to take down the bad guy, but at the same time, everybody fears you because you're powerful. So nobody liked him in his previous life. They all feared him, even though he saved the world. So in his new life, he goes this new life, and he decides at that point he's going to just chill. Don't get involved with people. Sure. Don't get involved with people, just chill. He's a son of this duke that's a total jerk. Very quickly, they test Alan, because at some point, I guess they test you for what kind of skill you have. He was shown to have no talents. So they think he's going to be like a stain of the family, and they kick him out. And then Alan's like, cool, that's exactly what I want. I don't want to be involved with that guy. I want to enjoy my life. So he starts to travel the world. And again, that not getting involved with anybody. But unfortunately for him, Alan is the main character of a power fantasy. And you know what happens to people that are main characters of power fantasies? They're going to run into the princess of the kingdom. Yep, sure enough, the first 2 feet he steps out of that house yard immediately notices the princess of the kingdom herself, this priestess that gets divine messages. She's alone, with one knight who's protecting her. Apparently, the kingdom was
A little bit short-staffed.
Maybe, yeah, short-staffed. Good one, Chris. I was gonna say they were very they felt very highly of Beatrice the knight or something, or just
Yeah, they really had a lot of faith in her.
They were feeling frisky. They were just feeling. You know what? I want to be dangerous today. I'm gonna send the princess out with one knight. But yeah, she's an assassination attempt is being played upon her, as we find out very quickly. Yes, by Alan's dad. They haven't found that out yet. We know that because we see Alan's dad all the time. But no, Alan's dad apparently no.
Yeah, we play close attention to Alan's dad.
Brother, the brother sent the ones to kill the princess. But yeah, they're getting their butt kicked. Reese is like, or Alan's like, crap. I wanted to lay low, but whatever. Godlike powers, boot, one shots them all, and then goes over there and uses godlike powers to heal Beatrice, which totally shocks them because he has healing ability. And then he uses godlike healing powers to heal the wagon. And yeah, that's when he finds out that the princess apparently is traveling because she received a divine message that she needed to go assist this light or whatever, which ends up being the hero of the kingdom, which apparently the heroes, they're trying to kill the hero too because they sent her to kill a dragon. So Alan helps her kill the dragon. And then he needs a new sword. So Reese is like, oh, I know somebody that can help you. There's this blacksmith elf. That's a rare one. This blacksmith elf, she can craft it for you. And yeah, when they get there, apparently there's an assassination tip to kill her as well. So everybody that Alan's running into, it's like the whole Dr. Elise thing. It's like Alan needs to stop hanging out with people because it seems like wherever he goes, there's an assassination attempt by his dad to kill that person.
Whoa. But if he does that, then he'll be off into the middle of the forest near the
and there'll be
Demon
assassination
King's
attempts against squirrels.
He'll be out there in the middle of the forest, and then he'll suddenly get an insane, absurd harem. You didn't like that show?
Oh, the farming sim one?
Yes.
Well, it could have been a really good show if they actually did it right. It might fall that was a bad adaptation. Yeah, the elf blacksmith, we kind of find out that she really hates this Fenrir, and has to craft like a divine sword like her master did, who took her in. And then, yeah, they send an assassin tan girl who's super cute, but then she fails, and then they take off this choker that's making her have to do it, and then the blacksmith takes her in.
Yeah. I don't know why we didn't add her to the harem, but
I know she's cute.
She's probably a part of the harem.
She's on my thumbnail for my first impressions. That got some clicks for just that one.
Yeah, I know, right?
She's a cute little tan girl. People like the tan girls. YouTube approved, apparently. Anyways, yeah, your thoughts on this wonderful, delectable show?
It is an acquired taste for sure.
That's a good way to put it. You may like it.
You may like it if you have a taste for power fantasy type shows. I don't hate it. I really honestly don't.
I do have to catch myself every now and then when I do that whole... This is one of those shows where it's like you either like it or you don't.
Yeah.
Wow. Genius, Andrew. It's like I say it and then I go, wow, that was the stupidest comment I ever made. You may like it or you may not. It's like a weatherman.
This is one of those popcorn type shows. You just watch it and just turn off your brain and watch it.
No, because you'll puke the popcorn out.
Why would you puke?
Why would you waste popcorn? Because you're gonna puke watching the show.
I'm not gonna puke watching this show.
It looks bad.
I'm not. It's when you have a show. Think of it this way. You have to have your top tier shows. You have to have your top tier shows. And then you have to have your other shows.
Bad shows. You're the worst anime fan out there. Everybody hates you, Chris. We don't want to hear this idea of accept trash because you're supposed to like
I didn't say you have to accept it as trash. I said that it's decent.
We talked about this.
I'm not going to say it's good. I like it just fine, but...
We talked about that during our how to what was it? What did we title that podcast? It was something like how to introduce your friends to anime or something like that. Anime for starters or something like that. And Chris went in this whole long discussion. Well, I mean, it made sense when we were talking about it, honestly. This whole long argument about how, like, you can't just give people all the big heavy hitters.
Yeah.
We were all both on the same page that you cannot, when you're introducing somebody to anime, you can't just say, here's a list of 50 shows, go watch this. Because they're going to watch those 50 shows that are the top rated shows ever. And then they're going to go, okay.
And then they're going to watch this.
And you're going to go, okay, now it's time to get you a Crunchyroll sub or whatever. And here's the seasonals. Get in with those. That way you can get in the conversation and everything. And then that's going to be what people want to do. They want to get in with the conversation because that makes it so much more fun. And they're going to look at things like this and go, what is this? Where's my Neon Genesis Evangelion type of crazy animation? What is this garbage animation? And then suddenly they hate anime because they realize that they watched all the good ones. They're like, where's my Ghost? This doesn't look like Ghost in the Shell. Sorry, anyways, continue.
Anyway,
tangent.
I don't hate the show. It's decent. I'm enjoying it for what it's trying to do. I'm not finding anything in here that is kind of hooking me. His kind of being a hero and then and hiding it for whatever reason, it's so that he can have a slow life, but he's not actually doing a slow life because he can't help but be a freaking hero.
He gets him.
So the entire premise is just chucked out the window at this point. So let's just see where the cute girls go with him. So that's pretty much where I'm at.
We're at the point now where we don't like anything, but hopefully the cute girls are cute.
Yeah, the cute girls better be cute.
And not sledgehammer a weapon all night until she passes out. You know, that was going to be a thing that we're going to do again. Just like her master, just hit that thing until you pass out. No, she didn't pass out. The master didn't pass out. She passed out. I
want to say the master did pass out once. That was the whole reason why she was so irritated at her.
No, she was irritated at her because she wasn't responding. She was just bang, 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 and then finally she woke up and she had finished it finally. Anyways, yeah, that's visually I think this show is not good. I mean, it's not like horrible, but it's like I wanted to give it credit because I was like, at least the show didn't CGI the dragon. And then the dragon runs along the side of that cliff, and I was like, oh gosh, please stop. And then slams on top of them. They're out there with like the girl that's like, you know, injured. And then suddenly the dragon just kind of flops down on top of them, and there's like this really dumb looking smoke around him. I was like, but at least it's not CGI. But at least it's not CGI. But yeah, besides,
this is the one that I watched one show that was just dog ugly this season so far. I'm trying to remember which one. No, it just looked god awful.
Oh,
I wonder if it was this one.
Renka looks terrible. The bicycle anime. Oh gosh, that CGI is horrible.
No, it would be in the list of the ones that I've watched so far. So,
but yeah, it doesn't look good. At the same time, the action scenes don't look good. They're like, and the point where it's just it looks off. Like it looks like something broke. And which, like I said, it kind of frustrates me because they're doing like Okairi Tadaima, and they're doing Remonster. Remonster looked good for the first episode at least, but even with Remonster, it looks like really quickly, especially the third episode, it's just like it's going on decline. So I'm assuming this one and Remonster are probably going to be some really bad productions for this season, but that doesn't really matter because overall the show is not really doing anything for me. It's very run-of-the-mill power fantasy without really doing anything so far that's grabbing my attention. It's just literally his parents, his dad, and his big brother is trying to kill everybody in front of him, and he's stopping the assassinations. There's no story twist or anything that's happening so far that's got my attention. They might eventually do something. I mean, I kind of was interested in the idea that there's technically a hero in that world because everybody gets a skill. And she got this one skill that literally grants her the strength of like 10,000 soldiers or something like that. And that's usually the person that gets that skill is deemed as the generation's hero. So she gets that. But even still, she's not powerful enough to defeat the dragon, and he has to save her, and that kind of affects her self-esteem for a little bit. But that's not really enough. So I'm At this point, probably just going to drop it because I'm not getting enough out of it, and there's too many dang shows. And again, as usual, that's usually the problem that we have with seasons like this, where there's 60 plus shows. It's like, am I going to waste a day slot for this show? No. So yeah, it's there. You go. That's Banished hero. Former lives pleases by being a hero. Again, Yuki. We had one. Somebody mentioned they were using the headphones and they could hear Yuki snoring behind Chris one day, and I'm like, now I'm like, crap. These mics actually pick that up. Well, Chris has got a different mic than me, so she probably can't pick up on mine. You guys can let me know later. I just like to mention that she is snoring next to me. That way, people don't think that I'm sitting here like ripping one over and over again. You know how that works. We skipped the show. Ooh, we did that last week, by the way. I texted Chris. I don't know if he should.
Yeah.
We did not review
Princess.
No. Chris, 'tis time for Torture Princess. I got yelled at on the Discord. You're not supposed to call it Torture Princess because there is a Torture Princess novel, and everybody obviously will think of the novel rather than the anime because we totally talk about novels all the time, right? All the time. I do want to check out that series though, since everybody keeps barking about it. Yes, we forgot to try for Torture Princess review, but I told everybody that I'm admitted to check my first impressions. It's super wholesome. The show has super wholesome moments, but I'm pretty much on the same pace I was my first impressions.
And I loved it, so,
and it's super good looking. It's so good looking. Why does the show look so damn good? Anyways, God's Game We Play. This show... I just literally watched this yesterday. So, yeah. God's Game We Play, or Kami wa Game ni Ueteru. This one's streaming on Crunchyroll for 13 episodes. Leading Films is working on it. Light novel is the source. And it's a comedy, drama, ecchi, fantasy, romance. And this one opens up in a world where the gods have decided to make a connection with the humans because they want to play games with the humans. So certain people will be marked and become apostles, and they will receive, I forgot what the name of the ability was. They gain something which makes them apostles, and that something gives them some sort of special ability. And then they will be welcome to go through this gate to go to this elements place, or whatever it's called, where it's basically a spiritual plane. And when they're in that spiritual plane, they can play a game against a god. And these games have been pretty much put in a way that there's like rules upon it and a victory. Like you have to gain this in order to have a victory. But it's very vague as to exactly what those rules are and the victory is. And that's what usually makes it kind of difficult. Plus the fact that it's very one-sided. These games are very one-sided. But anyways, we follow a guy named Faye. And Faye is somebody that's been pretty much becoming a prodigy. He hasn't played a game in like 6 months, but everybody knows who he is because he's got like, I think 3 victories at the time. You have to, and the goal is, as an apostle, is that you can play these games against them. If you lose 3 times, you will lose your status. If you win 10 times, you will then be able to go up to the plane and they will give you they'll grant your wish. They sort of indicate later on that the wishes are kind of like unlimitless. I think what they're implying there is maybe that they just make you a god and that thus you can wish for whatever you want. But basically this Leisha girl, who he talks to later on, she's like, yeah, you can get like 100 or 1,000 or whatever wishes. And she wants to become a god. So I'm thinking it's you become a god, thus you can have whatever you want, really. Anyways, that aside, Faye is being invited to his headquarters where he goes up and talks to Miranda, who is like the chief there. And she says, I have a task for you. A god appeared. So apparently in the past, like Ice Age, apparently, back in the Ice Age or something like that, there was a god, Leisha, who is like a dragon god, and she like challenged humans to a game of tag. And she went to the depths of the ocean to hide away, and she froze. And she's been frozen this entire time, and they finally discovered her and melted her out of it. So yeah, they have her, and they're a little bit afraid of her. So they want Faye to play games with her because they know that she likes to play games. Play games with her and figure out why she's here, what her motivation is, what is her goal. And so he goes in there and immediately they start playing a game together. She's like excited for him because she asked for like the best player, and that's who they sent. So they're playing a game together, and they play like this little match 2 game where it has different subjects on the cards, like where are you from, what's your name, ways to introduce each other. So they play this game, and he ends up finding out that she's Leisha, she's this dragon, she's a god, or was a god. She doesn't have her full powers anymore, and additionally, her goal is to win the games against the gods, and become a god, because she lost her title as a god. And so she wants to play with him because he's really talented. So they go to play the games together. Yeah, so far what we had is one game. Like immediately after they introduce each other, Leisha's like, come here, Faye, we're going. We're going to the Divine Gate right now. We're going to go play a game. So they play against this Titan God. And the Titan God has them play Hide and God Seek. And the idea here is that they can't get tagged by this massive Titan. And they're in this city. They can't leave this city. There's like a border. And if any of them get crushed, any of the players get crushed, they get like changed so that they attack the other players. And what they really quickly realize is that only half of their body is red. The rest of their body is normal. Like the color of their skin and their clothes is the same. And so they decide to throw a trash can on somebody, touch their thigh, and sure enough, they change back to normal. They're no longer attacking. And what Faye eventually figures out is that this entire city is a board. There's a hidden game within the tag game, which is Reversey. And that every single one of the players is a game piece, and they just have to touch them all to flip them. So they use this wind ability to push them all against the wall, to line them up, and they touch the ends, and everybody changes back to normal, and then they win the game against the Titan. And that's his 4th win. So now at that point, they're trying to find other members. They find Pearl Diamond, a girl named Pearl Diamond. Joke.
Okay.
They named her after Pokemon. They named her after a Pokemon. Isn't there a Pearl Diamond? Isn't that a Pokemon generation? Mm-hmm. Like it was together. I thought it was kind of funny. Anyway,
I got you.
I wasn't sure. I'm not a Pokemon person, so I wanted to make sure that you can verify with me. And everybody's like, no, actually, Pearl was separate generation from Diamond. Anyways, they find her. She has her ability that she got when she first became an apostle is the ability to teleport, and she doesn't want to play anymore because
that doesn't
apparently
have anything to do with Pokemon.
Isn't there like a teleportation ability in one of them?
One of the Pokemon will fly.
Isn't it
you
TR?
somewhere. One of you, no.
Or TNs. Is one of the TNs a teleport?
No, it's to fly. You fly. You have a flying Pokemon.
Different game, probably. But anyways, yeah, she doesn't want to play because she was playing a game, and one of her teleportation ability can either take her somewhere or swap her with something. And apparently she got panicked because she thought she was going to get crushed. So the game was to protect the captain, and she was afraid she was going to get crushed, and she immediately instinctively swapped with the captain, and the captain got squished. So he lost his last game, so he got his three strikes, and thus he's out. So she's a little bit upset. But they eventually talk her into playing. So that's God's game we play so far. Positives. So far, it's at least not a game anime about playing games where it doesn't feel like the character's constantly going, it's all according to Keikaku. It actually at least, I've only gotten one, well, technically 2 games so far. They don't feel like, they at least feel like something is playing out. And I think that's like the biggest credit I can give it, because one of the biggest beef I have with most every single one, like Liar Liar, good example. The biggest beef that I have with a lot of these game playing animes where the main character is playing like a multitude of games is it always feels like I have no clue what's going on. They're breaking all the rules. And at the very end, they go, it's all according to Keikaku. This is actually what's going on. I'm smarter than you are, viewer, and I figured it all out. Here's the resolve. And it's supposed to be like, wow. And it never works for me. I always go,
overly contrived.
Good for you for explaining what you did. I mean, you're the writer. It almost feels like the author's going, God, I got him. Man, I got him. And it's like, it's never clever. And yes, I always admit that it could be possibly due to the anime adaptations, just not skipping all the explanations or whatever. But it never feels right because it always comes down to all according to Keikaku. This one doesn't feel like that. It feels like, even with like the whole reversey thing, I feel like if I was paying more attention, I probably would have figured it out. Not that I wasn't paying attention, but if I was really trying to like overanalyze everything that was happening in the episode, I probably could have figured it out. Yes, technically having half and touching, that sort of makes sense. The the city itself was pretty square. You probably could have figured it out if you were really paying attention. But, and again, I only really have that as the primary example of how it's going to play out. It could go the direction of Keikaku stuff afterwards. Faye is very much so the type of like, yeah, it's easy because this. He's a guy that's been playing games for a long time. My only issue probably so far is I do really like Leisha, who's like the dragon god. She's a lot of fun. She's a spitfire. I don't care so much for Faye. He's not obnoxious and annoying, but he is the type that you do kind of roll your eyes at him every now and then. Like, his driving force. Okay, Chris. This guy is really good at playing games. He's playing a game against gods. What do you think his wish is going to be? It's got to be something big and grand, right? Wealth?
To play games.
Fame? Sort of. You're almost there, actually. Of all the wishes that you can have, like Leisha's like, I want to become a god again. That's huge. And then she could probably do exactly what he's trying to do with that ability. No, Faye's wish, and he basically puts it as, I only want one thing. I want to find this girl that used to play games with me when I was really young. That's his only wish, is that he wants to find this girl that used to play games with him when he was young.
That's a noble goal.
And she literally put it like, you can wish for like 5,000 things you want. I just want one thing. I want to find this girl from my childhood because she played games with me. It's like one of those moments where you're like, oh, you're such a main protagonist of an anime. God, why can't you be like, well, yeah, sure. I guess if I get that many, I'll get wealth, fame. Shoot. How about I wish for the ability that I can locate anybody at any time? Then I can find her, and then I can find missing children or something.
Yeah.
Think bigger. Think bigger. These main protagonists are so stupid. It's like, why are they so afraid of having a character that just says, yeah, I wish that I can have all women, and then I can have that chick too. I don't know. It's just so weird. And then plus it was funny because like when he first comes in that room and starts to play the game with Leisha, she does the whole card thing. She lays out the cards, explains the game, and then she starts actually orbiting them above their head so that she wouldn't know what the cards are either, or how it's shuffled, which is kind of cool. And she kind of like leans forward on the table, and you can see just the top. Just the top. There's a little bit of a top right here, a little cleavage.
Did he blow
and
up?
He
blowed up.
He gets all like, oh, you should wear something under that. And it was like, it implied this idea that like she doesn't want to wear underwear or whatever because it's too restraining or whatever. I'm already covering up. Why would I have to wear that underneath it? And then later on,
but he wants the girl that can play games with him. He's gonna blow up with her too.
But later on, when he meets Pearl Diamond teleports away. She says, I don't want to be involved. And then he gets her address because she's actually technically from their agency. He gets her address and goes to her apartment. And of course, you have the whole thing where he like knocks, no answer. And then Leisha's like, oh, the door's already opened. You know, what you do in Japan is you just walk in, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why, but he freaks out and he runs in there. Pearl, Pearl Diamond, whatever, I don't want to say how he says her name. Pearl, where are you at? And he runs inside of her room and she's literally in her underwear.
Oh no, he must have, his head must have blown up. No.
He closes his eye and kind of turns his head a little bit, but he doesn't freak out. I'm like, you freaked out seeing just the top part of her chest, and he's just so.
He must have.
Like, Pearl Diamond's not my type.
He must have gotten some.
And Pearl Diamond's like, Leisha's jealous of Pearl Diamond, so that gives you an indication that she's got more going. But it was so dumb. By the way, the ecchi genre is literally that. Those two shots. So, I don't know. If you're looking for that, you're pretty much not going to get it from this show. Unless they start doing some crazy stuff later on. I'm assuming that this guy is going to compile himself a full team of girls, because as you do as a guy that wants to get away from all girls and you have phobias there, except for the one girl from his past.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the show so far. It looks fine. Visually, it's fine. It's not doing great things, but at the same time, it's not looking bad. So it's like a 6 or 7 So it's not that, yeah, it's about there. Anyways. So yeah, I'm just enjoying it for Alicia. Not really much else. I don't know that I'm going to continue watching it. But, I don't know, maybe if I get an itch, I'll watch it. So, that's that show. See, we did. Let me double check the list to make sure I didn't skip anything else. Seventh Prince. Do you want to talk about Seventh Prince?
We can.
That show. Speaking of good-looking shows, I hate how good this show looks. I hate how good this show looks. I'm like, why? This is one of those shows where when you watch it, you're like, why can't my show look this good? Yeah, I was reincarnated as the Seventh Prince so I can take my time perfecting my magical abilities. Or Tensei Shitara Dai Nana Oji Datanode Kima na Mimani Majutsu wo Kiwamasu. I fumbled over this last time. Kiwa Memasu. Thank you. Just take your time, Andrew. Yeah, this one's done by Sumugi Akita Animation Lab, so gotta keep an eye out for them later, I guess. Based on a light novel, if you didn't guess by the long title. And yeah, this one follows... Did I say the whole English title? Yeah, I did. This follows Lloyd. No, it follows a guy in his previous life who was a commoner, had no, like, great bloodline or anything like that, and he's in front of this guy that's, like, a powerful wizard that's of a powerful bloodline, and that guy is basically explaining to him that unless you... What was the three things? It was, like, magic ability is based on, like, your diligence, your bloodline, and something else. And you ain't got none of that. So he torches the main character, and as the main character is, like, burning alive, he's like, this is such a great spell.
He does what everybody does.
Yeah, as you're burning alive from magic, you go, oh gosh, it's so great. I wish I could cast this spell. Oh, it burns, but I love it. And he dies. And then he wakes up in his new life as Lloyd, who is the son of a, like, noble family.
And immediately upon being born, he shoots the side of the building off.
Yeah.
That's what you normally do.
A bunch of cute maids are checking in on him, and they're all looking all cute, and he's just like, and just blast the wall. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's super excited. He's the seventh prince, so the son of the king himself, great magic bloodline, whatever. And he's like, crap, this is gonna be great. And he starts just doing nothing but wanting to read books and sneaking into the library and studying books, even though his sword trainer, Silpha, wants him to train as a sword. He just wants to focus on that. And at some point he hears about a demon being sealed in the basement. He goes down there to release the demon, learns some abilities from him before realizing that he can't kill him. So he just basically takes control of him or enslaves him. And then he just throws him into his hand so that he can double cast speak, so that he can cast double chanting and lowering the length of the spells that it casts faster, that he blows a hole in the sky. Like, literally, like, the existence of the sky disappears. And then he decides that he wants to become an adventurer, so he makes a copy of himself, runs off to find a dungeon to crawl into, runs into a girl, Lofin, from Frerin. She's there. Her name's Tao, apparently, now. And he wants to learn Ki, which she does breathing techniques to use Ki instead of mana. So he wants to learn Ki so that he can have 2 mana pools. And, yeah. Thoughts?
Like Andrew said, looks fantastic.
It looks good. It's just got the colors pop. Like, it's got some contrast or something. Like that, somebody is like, let's use all the colors that really grab your eyes.
And it's funny because when I was talking to Andrew about it, I do like this show. It's generally, I like Lloyd's personality, kind of a goofy, annoying.
Really?
Spitfire type character. I just kind of find it fun. And then after Andrew kind of got his thing out, I'm like, but dang, it looks good. It looks good. I'm just generally enjoying the show. I get a kick out of it, and I don't know. I don't know how to better explain it outside of that. It's just, I mean, there's not anything that's particularly grabbing me as something that I can pinpoint. Like I said, like Lloyd's personality. I like the girls. The weird kind of magic system is the thing that I'm really gravitated towards. I really would like them to kind of dig into it a bit more. Adding the whole key thing to his already just absurd amount of power kind of adds a new class of magic. And it'd be interesting to see how many different types of magic that they're planning on using in this world. But understand that this is after the first 3 episodes. I don't know that this is going to continue at this pace. I'm not going to. There's not a lot here outside of just looking good and having this kind of goofy personality that I kind of like. Outside of that, I don't know that it's going to keep going.
I hate the main character, and it's probably the only thing I don't like about the show is the main character. So I'm like, yeah, that's one of those. Whenever every now and then somebody says that me and Chris agree too much, and it's like, nope, this is a hard disagree. Like I could probably tell you that I would probably like this show so much better if Lloyd just didn't exist. Like literally just be about, I don't know, every now and then jumps over to Silpha and she's sweeping the lawn, and then he jumps over to Tao and she's diving a dungeon looking for a boyfriend. That's literally the show. I'd be happy. But no, yeah, like I said before, visually it looks way too good. It does some crazy stuff with the animation. Some of it's not really doing anything, but for the most part, it just looks really good. Perspective shots. As much as I hate Lloyd's character design, they get in there and they are very creative with perspectives, even though I wish it was less panning up from his thighs. Because yes, that's one of the things I kind of annoys me about the show is that it's super obsessed with his Shota thighs. They took the manga style rather than the light novel, and it's super Shotokan. It's like the short shorts with these massive shiny thighs, and it feels like, and I'm probably exaggerating this greatly, it feels like at least every 5 minutes it has to jump to his thighs and pan up him. And it's like, I get it. He's got thick thighs. I'm not a Shotokan. I don't care to see it every 2 seconds. So this is what everybody thinks about me and my other shows. Because yes, I would admit that if it was a female, I probably wouldn't mind as much. I mean, when Tao's on the screen, I'm like, heck yeah, show the thighs. But unfortunately, I don't care for seeing Lloyd's thighs every 2 seconds. It's obvious what the studio's going for. They're doing it. If you're a Shotokan fan, you're probably loving it. But no, I don't like... I don't know, I guess it's not that I hate Lloyd as a character. I just think he's so repetitive. I guess that's the thing. It's like, it's not that I mean, yes, I was a little bit put off by this guy literally screaming how much he was enjoying this magic that was literally killing him. But I didn't really mind it because I'm like, okay, he likes that. I mean, he's going to be deep into just learning every technique. Fine. Perfectly fine with it. But I think there's like multiple things about his personality that puts me off. One being especially the fact that he was seemingly a guy in his previous life, seemingly normal, besides the fact that he got really happy when he got set on fire. And now he's just walking around like a girl. And it's like, did he change genders too when he came to this new life? Why is he acting so feminine? It doesn't really make sense. Again, that could just be a lot of the studio just trying to make him super Shotokan type, but it's just really weird how he acts. But at the same time, I don't mind so much that he's a magic nut. That's all he cares about, and he gets super into it. But then it gets into like the fact that he acts sadistically, but he's not, and then at the same time, it's so one note. Like, he never thinks about anything but next ability, this. And even then, I probably wouldn't mind it so much, but the magic systems in the world so far have not been clever to me. The key thing was sort of interesting. I mean, what other show we have where literally somebody that has a mana pool decides to learn an entirely different, like, school of technique in order to have another mana pool? He literally wants ki and mana at the same time. That was kind of interesting. And then, yes, technically blending the two styles together so that he's using ki along with his mana. Other than that, like, the other again, that was like one little
I mean,
small
if it-
segment of one episode, and the other two parts of it is literally just no explanation. I just figured it out. Oh, well, I got to figure out how to do two. Well, okay. What'd you do? I just put you in my hand. How? Don't care. Now I'm going to make you cast with me. So say the incantation. Okay, that's not lining up. Here. Now I can speak through your mouth. And it's like, it's always like, I just did it. It's kind of like that, what was that one show where he goes to the other, he has a new life, and he has like that box ability, and then he just makes like Netflix in another world.
Yeah.
And then his sister like gets obsessed with it. It's kind of like that, where suddenly he's like scene change, and he's got a monitor, and he's playing Netflix, and he's like, and I'm using my Netflix account for my old life. Okay, go. I don't even explain it. Just keep going. It's kind of like that, where it's just, he just makes it happen. So it's never clever. It's never interesting. It's never, and that could just be, again, lost in light novel to adaptation.
Yeah, and
it just doesn't, there's no systems. It just, because he's Lloyd, that he does it. And so what I mean is that I don't want it overly explained, but I want some sort of method to what he's doing. Otherwise, it's just saying, look at what I did over and over again, and I don't care to see what he does over and over again without some sort of purpose or reason or system, I guess.
Yeah, and that's not, I in a way is kind of where my hope is kind of leaning, is that they're going to kind of play into the incorporating different arts together, and maybe hopefully make something interesting out of that, because that's the only place where I could see anything truly interesting coming out of this show. Because honestly, if I'm being fair to what Andrew is saying, there's not been much. It's just been, yeah, he's got an interesting personality to me, but outside of that, I'm not really big on the rest, what they've done as far as delving into the systems so far.
Oh gosh, that's what Ren's gonna be. Ren's gonna be ninjutsu.
I'm thinking.
He's gonna learn ninjutsu powers, and then he's gonna run into Jade, and Jade's gonna be Dark Knight, or
Maybe.
just a knight.
Maybe.
No, because he's already learning swordsmanship from Silpha. So he's learning swordsmanship from Silpha, which was kind of a cool thing too. Is he was basically specifically using mimicking technique.
Yeah.
Because he knew that he was going to beat her, so he just basically mimics her, and that's the only way he can get across it. But the problem that he runs into is that he's smaller, so that it doesn't reach as well as she does, so it doesn't work. So that was actually kind of clever. So it seems like there's like something with each of the characters that is actually interesting. Again, I'll admit that with the whole fight with Silpha makes sense, and again, what he gets from Tao makes sense. I like Tao's character, and so I can see each character that he meets having something interesting come from it. But it's just everything in between doesn't work for me. Even Grimm. Technically, Grimm is the one that taught him that he makes him... The Grimm made himself have two heads so that he can double cast. And that's when Lloyd learns double cast. So it's like he always learns something from each person, but it's always like, there. At least with Tao, it felt like he had to kind of figure it out. And he was just pushing to figure out how the hell does this work. So there was some struggle there. But everything else has kind of just been... It happens. So... Tao is kind of at least a good hope, I guess, that it could do something. So that's all for me to say, that this is a show that I want to continue. Yes, partly because I want to meet Ren, because Tangirl, best girl. You can't not, if you have a show and you're doing first impressions, you can't drop the show until you meet Tangirl.
Yeah.
It's a necessity. Mm-hmm. I mean, I got my Tangirl from the Banished hero. Now I can stop watching that because he stayed with the freaking blacksmith. She got to come back in the picture. You know it. You know she's going to come back in the picture later. But plus, Ren is Ria Takahashi, so that's another plus. So, yeah. Anyways, it looks really good. It's a really repetitive. I really don't like Lloyd, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes from here. We'll see. What else? A condition called love? Or Grandma and Grandpa? Or no, let's do Go-Go Loser Ranger. Because Chris, I want to make sure at least do Go-Go Loser Ranger, because Chris literally went home and watched the show so that he could do this. So I don't want to not do Go-Go Loser Ranger. Why can't I find it? Is it Sentai something? Sentai Konkoku or something weird. Oh, because it's got the explanation point that I was just searching Go Space Go. Yeah, Go Loser Ranger. This is a show, Disney, right? I think it's a Disney show, or it could be on Hulu. One of the two. I always. So somebody was like, whenever you guys say Disney, I always have to check Hulu, and I'm like, that's because whenever we make our list, I literally go by what the announced license is in our preview, and we don't know which platform they're going to put it on until it actually comes out, and I never update the documents. So when I say Disney, it could be on either one of them. It's the same company. Eventually, Hulu will die, and then they'll go back. Do you see that? Did I tell you that Amazon finally got a show this season? Tombo? Yeah. I don't know if you checked that one out yet. No. I heard one person say something positive about it, and that's probably the only person that's watched it because nobody else is going to get Amazon for it. Yeah, anyways, Go Loser Ranger, or Sentai Daishikaku, streaming on, again, I think it's on Hulu, 12 episodes, Yo Star Pictures, manga as a source, genre is action fantasy. And yeah, this one, the creator is the creator of Quintessential Quintuplets. But yeah, this one opens up with essentially the big bad monsters. They show up on this floating fortress and start attacking the world. And then as mankind was in danger, the Rangers show up. The Rangers, specifically the Dragon Keepers, they show up and they defeat the monsters. And then every week or so, the monsters will come back down from their fortress and attack the humans, and then the Rangers have to show up again and defeat the monsters. It's like your Super Sentai Power Ranger thing. Monsters show up every week, they come and they defeat it. Literally a monster a week. Monster per episode. But yeah, we cut forward, and then eventually we jump perspectives to the monsters, specifically Fighter D. So you have like all these monsters in this floating fortress, and they all have like a letter on their patch. So we specifically, for the most part, follow D. And they're talking about, man, what's up this week? Like, what monster are we going to create this week? They're waiting for us. We got to get something prepared by Sunday. And we can't use our past ones that we've done. And they decide they're going to do this lion thing. At the same time, Dee's talking to one of the fighters about how this is all just a sham. It's all fake. Well, let's just stop doing this. Why we keep doing this?
They shut down poor L, like, boom.
L?
Poor thing was trying to present something new, and nobody wanted to hear. Yeah,
the bunny. Let's do something cute for the kids.
Yeah, cute bunny.
But yeah, this is where we're realizing very quickly this is all a lie. What has actually happened is that way back there, when the Rangers showed up and defeated the monsters, they actually went up into the floating fortress, killed the bosses, and they left all the foot soldiers behind to create monsters every single week, come down, let them defeat them every Sunday. They come to this arena, the monsters show up, and they defeat them. It's all a big marketing thing. They basically realize that they can continue being the heroes if they just leave the foot soldiers alive because, yes, these monsters are actually immortal. The only way that the monsters can actually die is that they use these divine artifacts. And if they kill them with the divine artifacts, the monsters can't rebuild themselves. So every week, the foot soldiers come down, they defeat them, and then they just kind of warp back up in the floating fortress, and they'll put something together for the next week. And yeah, D is sick of it. He's like, he wants to rise up and stop them. Some of the soldiers are like, no, this is fine. At least they don't kill us. We're good. We'll just keep doing this. And even one of them's like, there was even a kid that was rooting for me because they seen that I was in the underdog, so they're rooting for me. This is fine. But yeah, D decides after the next time that they fight, he's sick of it. He even stands up against the Rangers as they're defeating them, and he decides to leave the floating fortress, go off on his own, disguise himself as a human, because as we find out, the fighters can actually convert themselves into whatever they want, so they'll change their form. And so he changes the form into a human and tries to infiltrate the Rangers by joining them to try to find the main ones, the Dragon Keepers, the ones that kill their bosses, and take them out from the inside. He quickly runs into Suzukiri, who's like, wow, gonna join us? I mean, this girl seems like she knows wherever he's at and is constantly interested in him. She even helps him out, covers for him a couple times, and at some point, she drags him off to the side and cuts his head off and reveals himself to being a fighter and that she wants him to join her to take down the Rangers. And then later on, he sees his friend get nuked by one of the artifacts, and then he goes to get one of the artifacts because she basically has him go get an artifact. He tries to get the artifact and then gets blown up. Oh yeah, and also Sakurama, who was with Suzukiri as well, he's part of the red team. He apparently is like...
He's part of the red team?
Wanting to make him join too.
Colorless.
Oh yeah, that's right, he was colorless. She was part of yellow, which is R&D. Red is... What was red? It seems like each one of the different colors, like there's red keeper, there's green keeper, pink, whatever. Each one of them seem to have their own garrisons, and they all focus on one thing. And I think they said the yellow is R&D, and red was something, and they mentioned, I forget what it was.
I'm not...
I think it's just tactics or fighting or something like that, or strength. But anyways, so it seems like there's like two people that are trying to recruit him, and yeah, thoughts. Everybody wants... It's not just the monsters that want the keepers dead or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I'm not... I don't hate the show. It's an odd one. I feel like I want a bit more. I want to dig into this a bit more before I decide, because it felt really kind of slow. And it might be just taking its time, pacing it out really well. Because I have definitely had some time to breathe. But I'm not feeling a lot of the characters. D is, while I do like his motivation, and it's taken its time to kind of get into it, it's kind of doing a lot of revealing of a lot of the background characters more than so much the out in the forefront characters, which this seems to be a lot more about everybody in the background. And I do like that about it. So I'm definitely warm on this show. I do definitely seem to be enjoying it. Definitely am intrigued by it. I guess I'm just at this point where I just want to see where it's going. I want to see where it's going to go.
Yeah, I think my biggest hang up right now is I'm okay with D, because I think they did well enough in kind of portraying him as a monster. He's not the smartest being, and they kind of indicate that all the fighters are kind of dumb. I mean, they're foot soldiers. They're when they have the Super Sentai fight, they're the ones that the big cackling bad guy is like, go get him, and these dumb doofuses in their little tight suits, and their entire body's covered with this big tight suit with like a face on the front of it, and they run out there and they get blown up and they do these little cartwheels away. They're like the weakest of the weak.
Yeah.
They even like have this one point, which it could have been his disguise. This one point where Sakurama is literally like, "Oh man, you're gonna join the Rangers. That's great!" And he like grabs it and he starts kind of pushing up against his face, and literally his face starts cracking. That's how weak he is. He's super weak. But yeah, it does well in kind of portraying them as just extremely weak and just kind of dumb. They're monsters, and it kind of indicates that they don't have like this. They're not like scholars or whatever. So when he comes down to Earth, there's like a mixture of, one, he makes a lot of dumb mistakes.
Yeah.
So it makes him, it kind of solidifies that idea of him being kind of an idiot monster. But at the same time, there's a little bit of that aspect of his anger and his instincts pushing him, and he's constantly telling himself to chill out. Like even when he's sitting down with Suzukiri and Sakurama, and they're getting photo shoots with people walking up like, "Oh yeah, thank you so much for the other day and saving us," and they're getting their picture taken and everything. They're eating steak for lunch or whatever. Like he's like, "Wow, you guys are enjoying food. You're enjoying all the celebrity, all for this big farce, this big lie. You're celebrities, and we're up there. We're suffering. We're just sitting up there waiting for the next week that we go down there and you guys, beat us to a pulp. It hurts, even though we're immortal. We still hurt. We still hurt." And so he's angered. And then he calls the kid over and he decides to disguise himself as Sakurama. And he's telling himself again, patience, wait your turn. You got it. You're a monster, but you got to wait your turn kind of thing. And yeah, it kind of plays in that pretty well. And so he kind of feels like a a believable character in that regard. So there is a sense of like almost having an underdog story character.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
definitely
I don't
felt
really
the underdog
know
story thing. But the problem is that while the underdog story thing does play into this, it doesn't feel like it's given it enough of a. He does have a desire to break out of that underdog story, but he doesn't have a strong enough of a motivation is the best way I can put it. But yes, I can see the underdog.
Well, the motivation would be not to eternally be having to get bloody to a bloody pulp everywhere.
I agree with you. It just doesn't feel strong enough.
They're like,
it's not. You can't sympathize with it enough. Does that make sense?
well, yeah, it's hard to sympathize with monster cattle.
Mm-hmm. I'm
Can't say
trying
I've
to
ever felt-
explain why that. While
Well, that's the
you
thing,
do
'cause, like,
have
every-
the underdog, it's just not sympathetic per se.
Yeah, and I can see that just because it's not like you like the guy. Mm-hmm. You just understand the guy. I understand him anyways. I guess my issue that I'm having right now is that slight spoilers for the third episode. It seems to like indicate that possibly Dee's not the main character, which that could be interesting if they deliver on it and it's got an interesting twist. That's literally like my thoughts on the show has been from the preview point till now. Will it deliver? Because it feels like it's kind of building up something interesting. It's just I hope that there's impact where it needs to be, because again, opening a show with the idea that the good guys are the bad guys technically, they're spending plenty enough time showing how super evil these guys are, and I don't know that it's ever going to deliver on the idea of actually taking them down, because by all signs it's pointing to these characters want the Keepers dead, or at least dismantled. They want to stop the Rangers in general. They want to put an end to it. I understand why Dee wants to do it. I don't understand why the other two characters want to do it. And that could get into something interesting when we do get into why those other two want them dead. Or not dead, but either dismantled or the Rangers gone. But I think that's my biggest problem I have right now, is that it's done well enough of it introducing the world and how evil the Rangers are. But I need to have... I guess I need something besides their evil. And that's the main key thing. And I guess that's going to credit to what you said in being sympathetic to Dee. I understand why Dee wants to do what he wants to do, and so that's fine. But at the same time, I don't really feel like I have anybody to root for. Because, yeah, I agree. I don't necessarily, like, root for Dee. I feel bad for the guys, but I'm not rooting for him. I don't really care. So maybe that's why, is I don't really find so far the characters much to connect to. I know that a lot of people are very connected to Suzukiri, which was one of the reasons why I thought that Chris would actually like the show, because Suzukiri's like, she seems like the twisted girl.
Yeah.
Like, she shows up, she's always got dead eyes, which I don't really like. I hate the dead eye look. It does play into my theory that I believe that Suzukiri could be possibly one of the bosses that didn't die. Mm-hmm. Or she could, but I don't know why she wouldn't tell him unless she doesn't trust the fighters. Like, she's like, okay, it's one of my foot soldiers, but they're kind of dumb, and so he's been acting pretty dumb so far, so he's probably gonna blow my cover. So that's my only hope there. It did seem to indicate from her. Now, she was telling a random story, and she could have been completely lying. She told some weird story about like how your typical romance stories goes, that you have the main character girl and the main love interest guy, and the story always goes that at some point two other people show up that could be theirs, but that never happens. It's always the original two. They literally told that joke. And so it kind of indicates this idea that possibly that there could have been... It could have been that her saying just plainly, I don't like things playing out like you would assume they do. Which would be the Keepers always beat the bad guys. She might want them to lose. Or it could be the idea that, yeah, maybe she had an interest in one of the Rangers and somebody went up and swooped them away. My earlier thought process there is that if it wasn't that she was either a boss or she could be a fighter that's disguising herself, but she would have to figure out some way to get stronger, like they're not. Because he's, like I said, really weak. It could be that and this could be a really cool direction it could go in, but it's very Western, possibly having been wronged by one of the keepers, say like the Red Keeper, and because they're celebrities, nobody did anything about it. So maybe she was assaulted by a Red Keeper, and then she told the authorities, and they said, go away, shut your mouth, because he's our celebrity. And that could be why she wants to take him down. That would explain the Deadeye as well. But again, I'm going back to now, what's the deal with Sakurama? Like, why does it feel like everybody this dude runs into... I mean, it easily goes in the idea that because we're already seeing that the Keepers... The whole scene with the Keepers up in the floating fortress was super telling. And I think they did a good job portraying that scene because it showed just how, like, sinister these dudes are, and they're pretty screwed up in the head. You get a sense that, like, Blue Keeper just wants them to shut up and listen. You have Red Keepers, like, pretty much, hey, the weak should listen to the strong. And the strong shouldn't have to worry about the weak. So stay in line. Don't let us worry about you stepping out of line, and we're all peachy. So he's all about, like, justice, his own little sense of justice and peace.
He's constantly on about how he looks too.
Yeah.
I have to look cool. We have to look cool. Always having to look cool. So
yeah, it's all in the idea of order. It gives a sense that he's created this peace through order, and if anything steps out of that line, it's just going to break. So yeah, obviously it's going to probably be in how they look as well, but. So they did well right there, kind of portraying them and making them look super sinister, but there's a side of me that believes because of based on how everybody doesn't like them, that anybody that's involved with the Rangers, within the Rangers, and inflicted by the Rangers, like the fighters, everybody hates them. Like I guess they all know what the public doesn't know, which is that these guys are kind of jerks. So that's probably it. Like, Tokita probably wants to take down... Well, he probably wants to take down Red Keeper because he wants to be the Red Keeper. Sakurama might not like him because, yeah, he knows that they're annoying, whatever. So it all comes down to, I like the structure of the show so far. I like that there's plenty of intrigue on how this could play out. I'm completely up in the air as to what direction the writer actually wants to go in, which is actually pretty refreshing. I don't know there's this is what has to happen. But at the same time, I just don't... I have a fear it's not going to land it, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, best way to describe this. This flight looks great. The land it's flying over looks good. The flight path looks great. But I don't know if it'll ever land on that spot or if it's even getting to that spot. And I'm afraid that when it finally lands, it's just going to completely... hit the pavement and it's just going to crash and burn. I actually had a better thing in my thought process, but I lost it halfway through it. But yeah, that's where I'm at with Go-Go Loser Rangers so far. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued enough. One more, Chris. This one should be a pretty quick one, especially since you said you only watched one episode. Grandma, Grandpa? Chris, did you watch Grandma, Grandpa?
Yeah.
Grandma, Grandpa?
I'm going to get all kinds of hate for this.
Are you?
Yeah.
Is there a deep fandom for Grandma, Grandpa? Did I miss the
I don't know. I got called out already on it, so.
You did?
Yeah, because I wasn't like.
Oh, that's
freaking
right.
Out
because on one of our podcasts, you said something. Yeah, I seen that comment and I defended you. It was like, you said all you literally said was that you're disappointed because it's very 4-esque.
Yeah.
And I was like, but he didn't say he didn't like the show. But so
yeah,
I guess you are.
I didn't
still
hate it. Yeah, I didn't hate it. I just it didn't work as I wanted it to be. Because when we were talking about when we were talking about it on the PV, I was like, man, this looks freaking amazing. And I truth be told, I kind of overhyped myself. I was super excited about this. And when it popped up I was right on it. I wanted to watch it. And when I watched it, it felt very 4-esque. And I was like, and
Coma-esque.
all the same jokes kept repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating.
Oh, we're already getting to that one.
Like, it just didn't
like
quite.
His time, no joke. Is no. I was pretty harsh on his time for Torture Princess being repetitive, but at least the joke changed in that one. it was the same punchline, so to speak, but at least it changed it up. But no, Grandma and Grandpa turn young again, or Jisan Basan Wakagagaru Aru, I think it is. Wakara ga Eru. Anyways, being done by Gecko, sources of manga, and genres are comedy, fantasy, romance. But yeah, this opens up with Ine and Shozo Saito, and it's Grandma and Grandpa. And they have this big area of land where they grow plants or whatever. And at some point, when they were first married, which I think they indicated was 50 years ago or was 70. I think it was 50 years ago.
I want to say it was 50.
50 years ago, they got married. They planted a tree. And then sometime here recently, again, them in their 70s or whatever, at some point, they went over, or it got hit by, at some point in its life, it got hit by a massive storm, and the tree got knocked over. And so they did their greatest effort to prop it up with a lumber, and they wrapped up this split that the tree had. They took real good care of it to make sure it stays alive. And then one day they go walking over the tree, and there is a golden apple on it. And so something apparently tells Ine, the wife, we should eat this. So they peel it, they cut it up, they eat the slices. The next morning they wake up. They had a dream that there's this hourglass, and the hourglass flips. And then they wake up, and then they were both young. And they're kind of freaking out, but at the same time, they just kind of roll with it. Everybody seems to be showing up randomly. They all seem to be accepting the fact that, yeah, that's definitely Grandma and Grandpa. They're just really young now. And yeah, as Chris joked, everybody seems like they have the hots for them, which is kind of unsettling, having the grandchild literally want to date the grandpa. And then the wife of the son wanting to date the grandpa. And then everybody from the elderly's folks gatherings wants to date them. And yeah. Thoughts. They do later on indicate this idea that there is a sense of mortality here. This has been obviously their age. They are constantly thinking about, are they going to be the first one to go? They don't want to be the first one or the last one to go because they don't want to be alone. The things that obviously people that have been married think about. They also indicate at some point the hourglass shifts again, and so they'll get old again. So there's a little bit of talk there about still loving them even though they're old again. And then eventually they note that, or at least the grandpa did at some point, notes that when he's seen the hourglass again, there was sand coming out of the bottom of it. So even though they are giving youth again, it seems like they won't last long either way. So even though they are getting their youth back, they're probably going to die soon anyways. Like even though they're given youthfulness again, they're still probably going to die at the same time as they were going to before. So it's not like they're given a second life, so to speak. So unless 2 episodes later, they figure out how to take the sand and stick it back in the hourglass, which who knows at this point. Thoughts? You know, you pretty much got through most of it already.
Yeah, and please don't misunderstand me. I did like the show. I didn't like its the way it was telling the story. It didn't feel like it was flowing well. It's generally cute, and I do plan on going back to it and catching up. I only watched 1 episode, so I don't feel like I gave it a fair shake. But at the same time, I doubt that structure factor is going to go away. Did you watch more than 1 episode?
Yeah, I watched 3, I think.
And did it feel the same way all the way through?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think it's a 4-comma, by the way. I just think
he was saying he was fine. I think he was saying it was a couple of.
Well, I mean, we've made that comment before, where technically 4-comma does not mean it has to be like, yeah, it's just like quick stories. Like it can only be 4 panels or whatever.
Yeah.
We just normally say 4-comma because a lot of 4-commas are very skip based. It is opening, build up, to the punchline, end.
Yeah.
And that's how they typically play. But you can get full on stories playing out through 4-comma. But what Chris is saying here is that this is like one of those situations where
is the best way of putting it.
Scene change.
Yeah.
Build up to the joke made, scene change. and it's like constantly jumping to the next point, which is you'll go from the granddaughter shows up and she starts hitting on the grandpa, and at some point the grandma walks in, gives a little bit of a pouty face. Grandpa says, "I only love grandma," and then it cuts over to bam, suddenly the mom's there of that daughter,
we're going to our sports tournament.
Yeah, they go to the sports tournament, whatever. Yeah, so it just jumps around like crazy. It's not like you open up the episode and you get the opening of the episode, and then it plays out a full-on story throughout the entire thing, and that story can go in the next episode and the next episode. Mm-hmm. It's very all over the place. So, anyways,
and I mean, like
I just don't want anybody to do the. Actually, it's not a 4-comma manga.
Yeah, wait.
It's a web manga.
I got that. I got that explanation.
It could be a web manga 4-comma. I don't know. I'm not looking it up.
Yeah, I think that they said web comic or something. Either way, I know that I'm gonna get hate for it, but yes, I do generally like the show. I think the characters.
You're gonna get hate for liking the show.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Well, because I have
he likes it
because I have any kind of criticism of the show.
This is definitely not 4-comma. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I generally like the show. I generally like the characters. It just, like I said, I built it up in my head when I seen it. I thought it would be a great idea. I really wanted to see that great idea into fruition. I didn't get what I was expecting. Plus the structure really kind of bothered me, but for all intents and purposes, I think it's cute.
Yeah, I agree with you, because this is the same situation that we had with Demon Girl Next Door. Demon Girl Next Door is technically, from what I understand, is supposed to be pretty like bam, 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 segmented basically stories and jokes. And it really felt like the first season, they did a good job of making it feel like that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Like when somebody told me when we were watching the second season where it felt like that, I'm like, the second season of Demon Girl Next Door, it felt like it kept jumping all over the place with each joke. And I'm like, this feels weird. And somebody's like, that's how it technically is. They just did really well in blending it. I never went to confirm that, but that makes sense, because the first season of that series, I had no idea. Because I guess it was doing a good job of actually adapting to have the character go to the next scene rather than the scene just cut to. And I think that's what I feel here, is that it's odd that that aspect doesn't feel right. Which is funny, because I can watch shows like Nichijou and never be minded by it. Yeah. Like Nichijou is just jumping all over the place. It jumps over the cute little science girl who's got the robot girl, and she's talking about how she makes her hand make a bread now. And then it cuts over to these girls over here, and they're on the street side, and they're talking about something. And it never bothers me there. But that's because probably because it has a large cast. Whereas this is literally just, it's grandma and grandpa.
I think Takagi
next person shows up.
Takagi-san pulled that off as well, didn't it? Because it felt you could almost.
But again, a very limited cast. It was just either Takagi and oh god, I just had his name in my head just a split second.
I almost had it.
Nishikata. And then you had the three girls, and we just jumped back and forth between the two of them. So it never felt like it was jarring. Whereas again, this one is it's just these two. It's just suddenly bam, now the mom's there, not the granddaughter. So yeah, I agree that it doesn't destroy it for me, but it is distracting in a way, because it never really kind of sticks to something. I think the main thing, and where I can probably excuse it, or at least explain it from my perspective, is it's not as wholesome as I was wanting it to be. Like, the PV gave me the sense of, like, here is these two, and they're given a second chance at life. They're reinvigorated, they have their energy back, they're rediscovering their bodies, and like they had the whole scene where they literally watch a romance film show together, and they're like, let's try the wall slam thing, and they try it, and she's literally like, yeah, got nothing out of it, and he just turns around and says, yeah, it's probably because we've been together for 50 years. And as he's walking away, she has the dokiness, like she don't want to say anything about it. So it has like a whole like rediscovering that physical love again, which obviously they kind of lose over time with being old. They lose a lot of that stuff doesn't work anymore. They just don't care anymore. But I felt with the PVs, it gave that sensation of they're just going to have their lives again. You're going to get into them just getting energetic again and when to build their lives up. And yeah, let's take a different route. Or do they continue being, harvesting their orchard or whatever and just enjoying their lives? And yes, you have this shock of everybody seeing them and all that kind of stuff. But instead, what I got is this literally, again, like I said earlier, granddaughter shows up, starts flirting with the dad. Her mother shows up, starts flirting with the dad. Then the father shows up, gets a little angry that they're all flirting with the grandpa. It cuts over. They're doing the festival. Everybody's like, crap, these guys are really, really good at, running together because they've always done the orchard together. They're super in sync after 50 years of being married. And it's just jumping all over the place and exaggerating here, but probably most of it is just literally people doking about them. Yeah. And I just, after the third time of somebody falling in love with the grandpa, it's like, I just don't care anymore. Like, how many more people are you going to introduce? It kind of comes into that category where I can watch an episode, and these are full-length episodes, which that's another kind of shocker that is full length. I could watch a full episode. I'm not sure. I would probably argue at least 4, maybe 5 skits per episode.
Probably.
They were maybe like 3 or 4 minute long skits. I would probably have 1 or 2 that I liked. And it was usually the ones that were more about like their love, their self-reflection, the idea of not wanting the other one to leave, the more wholesome moments about the characters themselves, or maybe just a wholesome moment with one of the granddaughters or something like that. I mean, they had this cute little moment where literally the grandpa thought that the one tsundere granddaughter didn't like him. And so he starts shaking and convulsing, and then the other granddaughter's like, tell him that you like him, otherwise he's gonna lose it. And he's like, my granddaughter doesn't like me, my granddaughter doesn't like me, my granddaughter hates me. There's cute moments like that, but the other ones are just kind of throwaway. So it's a very like hit, or it's a very hit, miss type of show for me right now.
An example of a show that had the hard cuts like this, that for whatever reason I gave a massive pass to, was Psyche K. Psyche K had the exact same feel as this, but those were literally 2-3 minute episodes that were kind of compiled into one show.
I was about to say.
So I mean, it's not like that can't work, but on one hand, those are a lot, for lack of a better term, they're better jokes.
But again, that one had a lot of characters.
Yeah.
And a lot of character shifts, perspective shifts, which again, I think works for Nishijo. A lot of characters, a lot of character shifts. Again, this one, it's literally grandma and grandpa, and they're usually always together. So you're not really shifting somewhere else. And it's not shifting the
So
joke.
You think that it's shifting somewhere else so that time can pass, per se? It doesn't feel unnatural?
That, plus you're changing to a different joke. Because with like Psyche K, you're shifting over to the Aibo guy. Yeah. Or you're shifting over to the girl that is like in love with herself. And again, with the Nishijo, you're shifting over to the scientist. You're shifting over to the school kids. You're shifting over to this person. You're shifting around different characters that will tell a different joke. So it's always refreshing it. Whereas this one is literally just them two. And again, even with Takagi-san, that one I think is an oddity, really, because it rarely shifts to the other three. It's usually always them two. There is the other couple too, which that was rare too. So I don't know why that one works so well with that one.
That's I mean, we're basically almost talking meta about
we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure out why it doesn't work.
Trying to figure out why this
is so repetitive.
Works sometimes and doesn't work in other ones. And then in this particular case, I was trying to kind of figure out maybe you're, because of the shifting perspectives, maybe there's almost an illusion of time passing, whereas with this one you'll have grandma and grandpa in the room, and then you'll have a hard shift, and then suddenly the family is in the room with them, and then you'll have a hard shift, and then suddenly they're in the middle of the tournament, hard shift, and then they're talking to other people in the tournament, and it's
the kid from the tournament shows up, and he's apparently got a crush on the granddaughter, and that was an oddity too, because it was like the granddaughter was there, and then shift, and now the mom's there, and then shift, and now the dad's there, and the other two are trying to explain to him what's going on. It's like, why didn't you all just show up at once? Like, would not the granddaughter saying, hey, grandma and grandpa are young again, everybody's going to be at the house trying to figure out what the hell happened.
Yeah.
Why is there 2 young people at grandma and grandpa's house? Did they kill them and replace them? Let's ask some questions. Yeah, even the doctor. Well, technically, the doctor is their grandson or their son, so that's the out for that whole situation. Not getting thrown into a lab experiment.
Right.
The guy that's checking on them is like literally.
You
I
don't
ain't gonna
think
tell
that the
nobody.
entire world would want to know the secret to youth?
Yeah, suddenly out of nowhere. Yeah, I do like the fact that they had like them driving down the street with, or no, they ran into the. There was these two school kids, and they ran into the. They wanted to go to Tokyo. It's like that whole idea of I hate being out in the sticks, and they spot the grandma, and they're like, oh my gosh, she's so pretty. And then suddenly the grandpa shows up in the pickup truck, and they drive away, and they're like, I think I want to stay here and raise a farm. It's like they think like, man, I get the hot girl and hang out with her all day. It was goofy. It was goofy. It's got its moments every now and then. Like I said, it's very hit miss miss, hit miss miss, hit miss miss. And I don't know, maybe if the skits were, I don't know, I think they're good length. I do think the skits are actually a good length because it doesn't feel quick. And I think with something like this, it can be very rapid fire.
It does allow for breathing. So
yeah, I got a kick out of the one of the girls decided to bring like a video game over there, and I forget what kind of game it was.
Did Grandma get obsessed with video games?
Because she was like, okay, let's just because one of the jokes, it's just kind of a thing is that if you hand a game to an elderly person that's never played a video game before, they don't even know what they're looking at. I remember like our grandparents giving them like a handheld or something like that and showing them the graphics of these days in handhelds, and it's literally they don't see anything. Like they're not even seeing what is moving in there. They just see a screen almost like. And so there is also an aspect of hand-eye coordination and stuff like that. Yeah, an older person, they just don't quite. As you age, you're going to lose a lot of that hand-eye coordination. And there's a lot of people that will claim, I would agree too, is that playing video games on a regular basis can help your hand-eye coordination. It keeps your brain kind of moving a lot of processes that you don't normally use. And so, yeah, she's obviously letting them play the game and see how well they do. And they end up literally like the next day, they're like, we got all the trophies. We're done. We're done playing it. Like they got super obsessed with playing the game and they just kind of completely 100%ed it. So, and that was cute because when they immediately start playing it, it was a Resident Evil type game. That was what it was. It was, God, what was it called? Rice Field Biohazard or something like that. So it was literally their two characters. They were playing their older selves. And so the grandpa had like a shotgun. He's shooting all the zombies, and the grandma picks up a chainsaw and she's just chainsawing things. And the granddaughter just sitting there like, what the hell? They're beating the game. And again, like I said, they completely 100% it. There is, I think the only thing that I kind of want to keep watching this show for, this is oddie, I know, the backstory stuff, because it early on, it started hinting at their relationship and how they met. And the earlier moments of it didn't really seem like they were doing much with it. It was like this whole idea of like, the parents that wouldn't agree to it, and he gets in a fist fight with the dad or whatever, and all this kind of junk, and that she had to like tell him off and all that kind of stuff. And so the granddaughter wants to see it in action, so they have her reenact the telling off. And then it goes into, like a different perspective. It's the perspective of her. I think she was living in Tokyo or something like that. Then the war came. Yeah, we're obviously that old. The war came and devastated the town, the city, and then she moved into the outskirts, and that's when she had to learn how to do crops and stuff like that, rice fields. And then she was sort of seen as an outcast of the village, and he was the only one that was confronting her and offering her some food and stuff like that. And she kept trying to push him away because the village seen her as an outcast. So it was actually doing something pretty interesting with their meeting and how they fell in love with each other. So I think the wholesome parts really work well for it. Their relationship and their wholesomeness. It's just, I think, in the end of the day, my issue comes... It's so great that this is supposed to be a quick review or first impressions. I think in the end of the day, I like their relationship. I like their struggles. I like them rediscovering their love and each other, and them experimenting again with their love. It's just, I think it's all the side characters. Whenever they get into the mix, it doesn't work. The Skull Festival didn't work. I mean, it was kind of funny. I mean, them being perfectly in sync. But everything else is kind of turns... I mean, the granddaughter stuff sometimes works. Like the whole, like, again, the bringing the game, or her saying that she doesn't like grandpa, and then say that you don't hate him. so he can stop convulsing. I think sometimes that works, but I think it just only works for me when it's just the grandparents and it's their life.
Yeah.
I think everybody else doesn't work. So I think I've talked myself into reasoning of why it works or doesn't work. It just took us doing a long first impressions that I thought was gonna be quick. Anything else? It looks decently good.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, the character designs are cute. They love the cat.
Does
faces.
feel like a watercolor.
The females all have to have cat faces. Maybe that's just in their genes. The Saitos, at least the females, get cat faces. No, I don't know that Kaede did, but again, she's not blood related. Kaede is, or
she was married in.
She was married in. So it makes sense that Mino and Shiori have the cat faces because they're of direct bloodline. And then, of course, I think it comes from Saito because she has the cat face. I don't think he ever had the cat face. So yeah, I figured that out too. Apparently, the females in this bloodline all have cat mouths. I don't know if we watched. I don't know if we've seen any other female characters that weren't in the family.
The old ladies.
Oh yeah,
but they didn't do much.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll cut it off there. That's part one of our winter impressions. Again, we still have like, I don't know, 20, 30 shows left, so we'll probably be like a 3-part or 4-parter, but we'll just do them as we go. But hope you guys enjoyed this list of anime and our first impressions on it. If you did, again, make sure to hit that like button if you're on YouTube, or leave us a rating if you're on other platforms or podcasts. We greatly appreciate your guys' support. Again, talkaspirit.com, that's where all of our links are. Social media links, ways to get a hold of us, ways to support the channel. We greatly appreciate you guys for supporting the channel. I'm getting ahead of myself because we got to stop. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed, and y'all take care.
Os.